I'm author Ruth Gruber, and you're watching Taped with Rabbi Doug.
We're gonna see Rabbi Doug. We're gonna see Rabbi Doug. We're gonna see Rabbi Doug on your TV tonight.
But Daddy, I want to watch Monday Night Football.
Forget about Monday Night Football. There's no other thing we're going to watch on Monday but Rabbi Doug.
Yeah, Rabbi Doug on TV tonight. We're gonna see Rabbi Doug.
Oh, everybody talk about that.
Author and heroine Dr. Ruth Gruber, who was an author and originally started her career as a journalist, joined me in 2004 for a most interesting interview. Back in 1935, the New York Herald Tribune asked Ruth to write a series about women under communism and fascism. She traveled across Europe to the far reaches of Siberia to cover the story. Harold Ickes, President Roosevelt's Secretary of the Interior, read Gruber's writings and asked her to study the prospects of Alaska for homesteading GIs after World War II. Gruber's life-defining moment came in 1944, when as an employee of the Secretary of the Interior's office, Ickes asked Ruth to take on another special mission, secretly escorting a group of 1,000 Jewish refugees from Italy to America, saving them from the Holocaust. Join me on this interview I did in 2004 with the amazing Ruth Gruber, who passed away on November 17, 2016, at 105 years old, as we memorialize her, Aleha HaShalom, on this episode of Taped with Rabbi Doug.
Shalom and welcome to Taped with Rabbi Doug. I'm here today with Dr. Ruth Gruber. Welcome to the show, Ruth. Ruth is an amazing woman, and that's why I'm so happy to be here. She's come to Chicago to speak for Hadassah, and she is not only an author of so many books, but she is a former politician, journalist, savior of many. She just has done so much in her life. She worked in the Roosevelt administration. She has claims to fame such as saving 1,000 refugees during World War II when the United States was not accepting people who were refugees from other countries, was not taking in such people. She was able to bring 1,000 people to the United States in an amazing story. Her book, Haven, which she authored, what year was this book written?
1983.
In 1983, tells that story of those 1,000 who were saved in her just amazing efforts. And her latest book, Inside of Time, My Journey from Alaska to Israel, is what she's really talking about a lot now, along with her whole story, because Ruth, in your speaking now, you really tell the story from beginning to end. It gets longer and longer, I guess, because there's so much more that you add to it. Tell me something. What do you think of all your connections in politics and for all the newspapers and the radio stations and TV stations that you were associated with over the years? What do you think is the most memorable moment to you?
I think one of the most memorable, a really life-enveloping experience, was bringing 1,000 refugees while war and Holocaust were raging.
How was it? For those who haven't read the book or seen the movie, because the movie certainly is an amazing way to find out the story of the book, but certainly not as intimate in detail. How could someone, a woman who is a mover and shaker, yet at the same time, a single person, do so much? How could you do something like that? How are you able to change history almost single-handedly? What is the secret?
I've been very lucky. I really have. I've been able to be in spots where history was being made, and to have that privilege to have helped bring 1,000 people who suffered as they had suffered during the Holocaust, and then to try to help them become citizens of America and to give back to America everything we gave them. And that was one really life-turning experience. Another was covering the famous ship Exodus in 1947, and I did that when I left the government. By the way, you called me a politician. I've never been a politician. Never. I've been a government employee. I was special assistant to the famous Chicagoan who was Secretary of the Interior, Harold Ickes, and I worked for him for over 5 years. And he's the one who sent me on a lot of these wonderful assignments. But when that ended, I went back to being a journalist and a photojournalist. And then I had the good luck to be in Israel, traveling with the United Nations Special Committee on Palestine, when I heard that this ship named Exodus was in the harbor. Well, it was outside territorial waters. 4 British destroyers came upon it and smashed it like a nut being smashed by a nutcracker. And then they were dragged into the harbor at Haifa, and I covered that story. The British told me they were sending them to Cyprus. I flew there. Cyprus was a hellhole of desert sand and wind. A DP camp, a prison run by the British, where they were imprisoning Jews whose only sin was they wanted to go home to the land of Israel. And so I followed the ship Exodus and was the only American that they allowed to represent the whole American press when they were put aboard prison ships in central Germany, the Runnymede Park. So that was another life journey.
Your book, Exodus 1947, was that your first book?
Oh,
That
no.
wasn't, was it? What was your very first book?
The Study of Virginia Woolf.
The Study of
That-
Virginia Woolf.
That was my PhD thesis, and I didn't know when I was writing it what an anti-Semite she is, and most people still don't know it. But when I started writing volume 1 of my autobiography ahead of time, my early years as a foreign correspondent, I was thinking I'd go back to Bloomsbury and sit in the museum and try to remember what my impressions were, when I discovered all her diaries, all her letters were in New York City in the 42nd Street Public Library. So I went there and I found I was in her diaries, in her letters, and she's not very kind. She calls me a poor, importunate German Jewess who prevents her from writing. She invited me to tea. And then when I went there, she was my icon, you know. I think I did a whole doctoral thesis on her. And now I discovered how anti-Semitic she was. And I wrote a letter to Nigel Nicholson, who edited her diary and her letters. And he said that Virginia really liked your book, which was very rare, he said, for Virginia. But the thing I can't stand about her, he said, is her snobbishness, her anti-Semitism, and her inability to meet with anybody who doesn't agree with her. So now there's a young woman in Oxford who's doing her doctoral thesis on Virginia Woolf, and she flies to New York constantly and interviews me, and I'm flying over during Thanksgiving. She's doing a big symposium in Oxford on women war correspondents, and she has invited my daughter, who was with CBS during the Gulf War, and I knew what my mother went through.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine.
And so, and I said, are many people writing theses on Virginia Woolf? She said, hundreds. She said, now they're all reading not only your book on Virginia Woolf, they're reading ahead of time that you wrote, they're reading Haven, all over Oxford. And that's really something.
That's very moving. Well, how nice, how nice.
In 10 days or so, we will be remembering Kristallnacht. I think a lot of us here remember that night when, because a young Jewish boy in Paris murdered the third secretary of the German embassy, the Nazis had an excuse to go on a rampage, a pogrom. It was the beginning of the Holocaust. 30,000 men were pulled from their beds. in their homes and thrown into 3 concentration camps, Sachsenhausen, Buchenwald, and Dachau, outside of Munich. Women were not yet pulled out of their beds. Children sat shaking while the SS grabbed their fathers. And they didn't know whether they'd ever see their fathers again. Last week, I met with one of those children, who now is a grandmother and a great-grandmother, and she described to me how she felt that night of the broken glass, Kristallnacht. How she screamed at them, "Don't take my father!" And the SS guy sort of pushed her aside. 197 synagogues were burned. The Jews knew that they could no longer live in Germany. If only they had gotten out sooner. If only they hadn't believed that Hitler was a clown, that they had been heroes in World War I and nothing could happen to them. If only they had known what we know now. But they didn't. And Kristallnacht is one of the things we must never, never forget. Because that was what taught the Nazis how they could just go through the land, slash every window they could reach, and really humiliate the Jews of Germany. I was asked to speak about yesterday, today, and tomorrow. I'll begin with yesterday. Ethel told you how I was working for a former Chicagoan, Harold Ickes. Did you all know Ickes? He's one of your neighbors? You should know him. He was working as a lawyer in Chicago and very much interested in helping Indians. So when Roosevelt ran for president, he became very much involved and felt that maybe he could get a job in New Deal. So he went to Washington and he asked Roosevelt if he would make him Commissioner of Indian Affairs. And Roosevelt, after 5 or 10 minutes, said, "I'm not making you Commissioner of Indian Affairs. I'm making you Secretary of the Interior. And one of your many, many jobs will be Indian Affairs." And after I had written this book called I Went to the Soviet Army, he decided I should go to Alaska and write a similar study. So I wrote reports for him. I wrote about what we were doing up there as government officials, because I was his field representative for Alaska. And I kept writing reports for him and letters to my mother in my shtetl, Brooklyn, where I was born. Anybody here from my shtetl? Maybe you know. I remember I was sitting in Fairbanks in the summer of 1941, and it was so hot in Fairbanks that I was writing a report in a bathing suit. And I wrote my mother, "I've just finished a 50,000-word report for my boss." So my mother, with her usual wit, wrote back, "If you could write 50,000 words for your boss, maybe you have a few words for your mother." And I spent a year and a half in Alaska walking, Pearl Harbor, Dutch Harbor, everywhere I went with these young kids. And before the war started, they didn't know why they were in Alaska, and they hated it. they kept saying to me, if the Japanese or the Nazis take Alaska, they deserve it. And I considered it my mission to tell them why they were in Alaska, that it was the future of America, that it was the shortest distance between the continents, and that when the war started, troops, pilots would be bringing not only arms, but butter, guns, across the North Pole to save Europe. And many of these kids would come to, say I was in Dutch Harbor, and the commanding officer turned his whole house over. And these kids would knock on my door, and they'd say, can we just hear you laugh? We're so lonely. So I would ask them to sit on the porch, and they would tell me about their mothers, their girlfriends, their wives. And I learned two things that would just help shape the root of my life. The first was I learned how to live inside of time. I might be in Nome, and by the way, it was a ghost town when I got there. The gold had all been discovered, and now it was dirty and filthy, but it still had Eskimos, and I was very fond of them. And then after about 3 or 4 weeks there, when I had enough material to send a report to Ickes, I would send a cable, because there were no telephone connections, to a bush pilot in Anchorage. My office was in Anchorage in the penthouse, the 3rd floor of the federal building. And I would say, can you fly me from Nome to Point Barrow, the northernmost Eskimo village in Alaska? And the answer would come, see you Tuesday, Weepers. Weepers meant weather permitting. Tuesday came, the next Tuesday came, the next Tuesday came, no pilots. And instead of fighting against time, as I ordinarily would do, because I was always in a hurry to get everything done, I realized that if I just let time envelop me, that it would be like a golden area, and I could sit back, I could get to know the Eskimos even better, I could learn more about their culture, their way of life, and then my life would be enriched by it. So instead of fighting time, I enjoyed time. I learned to live inside of time. And that's why I named this most recent book, that just came out recently, called Inside of Time, My Journey from Alaska to Israel. And the second thing I learned was that you really can do almost anything you want to do if you do it with passion. And I realized that I am technologically illiterate. I can't even read or understand a recipe. When people ask me, how do you cook? I say, by telephone. When Adasa asked me to write the column, Diary of an American Housewife, I said, me, American housewife? You know, my mother would always say, you don't need to learn how to cook, you do more important things. I said, Mom, teach me borscht or something. She said, it'll take you a year to learn. She was right. But I learned that if I had to, I could fix my typewriter. I always had a typewriter. I could fix my cameras. I always had cameras. And I realized that you could live as the only white woman you know. There was a school teacher there, that occasionally a nurse came, or a doctor. That you could really do whatever you had to do if you did it with passion. And that was the way I lived the rest of my life, with passion inside of time. And I realized then that we all have tools. And my tools were words and images, my typewriter and my cameras. And with those tools, I could fight injustice. I could fight to help people. Everyone here tonight has tools. We just have to find them. We have to dig inside ourselves and find what our tools are. Whether you are a teacher or a social worker or a cook or a housewife or anything, you have tools. And with those tools, fight injustice. Wherever you see it, fight it. The world has become infested now with anti-Semitism. It's an epidemic all over Europe. We're seeing things we thought were long past. Countries we thought were our friends have now turned against us. The Arabs are doing such a job learning from us that they're making our position in the world more and more precarious. Our universities are filled with Arab propagandists. Who knows when there will be another Kristallnacht?
Ma'am, I have to ask you to move to the rear of the bus.
I'm Senator Lindsey Graham, and you're watching Rabbi Doug.
And when the war ended, there was a new war going on. A war between the State Department, the Justice Department, and even the Treasury Department, sorry to say, who all said they must go back. They promised the president that they would go back when the war ended. And only a few people like Eleanor and Ickes and a few others said, how can we send back 1,000 people to countries that are no longer countries they lived in? Poland was already under Stalin. They didn't want to go to Stalin. But Ickes again told me what to do. He said, you go to New York, go to see your friends on the New York Herald Tribune, which had been my paper, and I went back to them and the war ended. Tell them to write editorials, strong-shouldered editorials. Bring down leaders, Christians as well as Jews. Bring them to my office, he said, and I'll tell them where to go. You have to lobby Congress, you have to lobby the administration. So I brought them down, and we all fought and fought and fought, and we won. And President Truman is a Hanukkah president, Christmas president, made an announcement. They didn't change the quota system. That was tight. Only a certain number of Jews could enter. But he announced the DPs. You know what a DP is? A displaced person. It's a new word in the lexicon of homelessness. The DPs were living so terribly in Germany that they would be the first, they could be on the list, but they'd be the first ones in Europe allowed to come into America. And he said, and then there's 1,000 way up there in northern New York State. Many of them already have numbers, are ready to come. They were children, they were sons in the army. And he said, we're going to allow them to go to Canada, shake the hand of the American consulate, come back and apply for citizenship. The year and a half that they spent in the camp didn't help. They became American citizens, and they gave back to America everything America gave them, and more. One of them helped create the CAT scan in the MRI, Dr. Alex Markowitz. Any of you doctors here, you must know his name. He was head of radiology in San Francisco at the UC. Another one, very well-known chemist, Ralph Markowitz. He's one of the fathers of the Polaris missile, Minuteman missile, turned his back on all these instruments of death. And he now is sent by our government to teach usages of energy for peace. We saved 1,000. We could have saved 50,000. 100,000. 500,000. We were an empty country. But to those 1,000, it was life and death. And now they are here with their children, their grandchildren. And we have built a museum. This is so unique because it's the only museum where living Holocaust survivors really are being honored. Of course, we have the great Holocaust Museum in Washington, in Redmond, and in New York City. But this is a small one. And they have built a little library, and they've named it for me. And all the royalties from my books go to the library. And I want you to know that everyone here has a role and a part to play. All of you volunteers in Hadassah, you know the difference between the lies that are being told about us and the truth. And I hope you will all go home from here and say, I have tools. I will fight anti-Semitism. I will fight injustice wherever it is. Thank you.
You know, the first, Dr. Ruth Gruber book that I knew of was Exodus 1947. And I just think it's amazing how you, through all of your travels and all the things you do at 92 years old, I understand. Is that true?
I just had 3 birthdays. I'm 280 years old.
Well, you should only be in good health to 120, bis 120, as we say. You're just amazing. You travel on your own. You go around. You speak everywhere. I've never met anyone so amazing in my life, and I just want to tell you how much I admire you and just enjoyed listening to you and how moving you are. And I just wish you so much more success in the future. I wish you just good health and hatzlacha in all your endeavors. And I just, if you could just tell the audience what your secret is. I know you say this at the end of your speech, but if you could tell everyone what is the secret to doing what you do as you still do it.
4 easy words. Never, never, never retire. You may have to give up a job at 65 or 70, but don't stop working. Don't stop using that brain, because if you don't use it, you lose it. If you don't keep your body strong and stretch it, you destroy it. Just keep on and never retire. Never let that brain stop working.
Wonderful. I want to thank you so much for being on the show. I want to thank the Chicago area, Hadassah, for bringing you to Chicago and allowing you to share this day with me and with our audience. And Dr. Ruth Gruber, just all the best in the future. And I look forward to seeing you again many, many more times in good health. I want to thank all of you for being with us. Remember, we're on every week at this time, so hope to see you next time here on Taped with Rabbi Doug. Shalom.
Well, he's the rabbi for me. Anytime you need, you're gonna get married or you're gonna die. Gonna see Rabbi Doug. Gonna see Rabbi Doug. Gonna see Rabbi Doug. Gonna see Rabbi Doug on the TV tonight.
This has been a Tape with Rabbi Doug production.